Good morning, guys. It is Monday, February 5th, 2024. This is Bathrobe Business. I'm George Yoganov. I got my coffee and I got the news. As has become trend with this channel, I'm going to report on the Fed. I promise that this is probably going to be the last story I report on the Fed this week because I think I am getting a little bit obsessed with this. But it's a powerful market force, so I have to talk about it. So, not much has changed since Friday's post. I discussed why Jerome Powell is not raising interest rates anytime soon, et cetera, et cetera. That's in the past. Go back and watch that video if you're interested. But he had a 60 Minutes interview yesterday. Now, I did not watch that 60 Minutes interview. I'm just reading the highlights of the interview. This is from a CNBC article, but I think it's pretty powerful. I think it just echoes a lot of what has already been said, and I'm just going to highlight a couple quotes from the article. So I'm just going to read this verbatim. Powell warned that the monetary policy tightening would cause some pain. However, it hasn't really happened. So, kind of like we talked about, I think there's still a lot of room for expansion. I think there's a lot of room for interest rates to remain where they are and even potentially rise. His other quote was, "We'll update the outlook at the March meeting. I will say, though nothing has happened in the meantime, that would lead me to think that people would dramatically change their forecast." He said, noting that the time is coming for cuts, but perhaps not yet. So I think it's going to be kind of what we talked about on Friday. I don't anticipate a cut in March. I don't anticipate a cut in April, May, June. I think we're looking into the third and fourth quarter for a cut, and if we do, it's going to be probably 1/4%. I think it's going to be largely based off of pressure from the economy. Not so much the economy. I think the economy is going to be chugging along fine, but I think Wall Street is going to be pressuring him to make cuts, and I think that politically speaking, it's going to be a powerful pressure because we're going to be in full election season by then. Because let's not forget, like a lot of these banks, if they need to do any kind of lending, overnight lending, refinancing, 1/4% point is often billions of dollars. For us, 1/4% point may change a few $100s in a mortgage payment or an extra $5-10 in a credit card payment, but it's not making or breaking the bank. However, for Wall Street, it is making and breaking the bank, which is why I support high interest rates. Interest rates need to be high because it supports small business, it supports Main Street, and it doesn't support Wall Street. To further underpin what I was saying, Cole Smead, he is the CEO of Smead Capital Management, private equity group. He just had an article at the CNBC as well, and a man after my own heart. I think he echoes everything I am saying. He frames it as a bad thing. I think it's fantastic. So I'm going to read some of his quotes as well. Give me a second. Yes, so here's one of his quotes. He says, "I think the real question can be, do we know that the lowering of CPI has actually been caused by these short-term policy tools that they have used," referring to the Fed. So in other words, Cole is actually making a pretty powerful point. He's saying that we're just assuming that inflation has dropped surely because they have been raising interest rates. But would that have happened either way? And is it actually what's driving lowering inflation? He's also adding to the fact that inflation has slowed significantly from June 2022. From 9.1%, but U.S. consumer price indexes increased 0.3% month on month in December, and the annual inflation rate is still 3.4%, above the 2% consensus that the Fed wants. This is exactly what we've talked about, that we're still at a high inflation rate. He also highlighted that in 1964 to 1981, the economy was generally strong, but the stock market did not proportionally benefit. Yes, and that is the point, that stock market should not benefit exponentially at the cost of Main Street. So during that time period, the Main Street was doing just fine. Wages were great. This is the golden era that every politician wants to go back to, right? But post 1981, stock market grew exponentially. CEO wages grew exponentially. C-suite compensations grew exponentially. Stock prices grew exponentially. And the U.S. economy became more and more unaffordable, didn't it? Well, isn't that interesting? It's almost as if high interest rates are a good thing. And they are. So he's framing all this as a bad thing, but he's literally echoing what I've been saying just in a negative light. High interest rates are good, and we need to be supporting that. I hope Jerome Powell doesn't cut, and I hope he doesn't cut for a long time. I wish he would raise, frankly. I think it would be amazing for the U.S. economy if we had at least a decade of this level, if not higher interest rates. You would see a massive transformation. You would see companies becoming more efficient, more lean, more prosperity on Main Street. It would change the game dramatically. I'm going to have two other stories before I go. The first is very quick. It's from Walmart. Walmart is trying to get their, this is essentially a talent recruiting scheme, right? Maybe scheme is the wrong word to use, but a talent recruiting tool. So they are offering their store managers stock bonuses anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000. Now they're being a little sneaky because they're doing a 3-to-1 split. So they're splitting their stock from 3-to-1, and because of that, the 20,000 bonus is going to be I feel like devalued a little bit, because they're going to say, oh, we're giving you $20,000 worth of stock, but it's not going to be as valuable as it was previously. But that's fine. They're also saying the 3-to-1 split is so that individual employees can buy stocks as well. So there's that. I just thought that was an interesting story. They're doing this essentially so the store managers feel a little bit more like there's ownership in the company, and that they function as such, so that they're more aggressive with recruiting and managing the stores more effectively. Last story, just one that makes me angry. So the Senate releases 118 bipartisan proposal for Israel, Ukraine, and border security. The long-awaited bill allocates $60.1 billion for Ukraine, $14.1 billion for Israel, and $20.2 billion for border security. That is our money that is just going down the drain, frankly. Now, this hasn't fully passed. This still has to go back to the House, where the House was going to make their changes, and the House has a competing bill. But I just think all these numbers are horrible. Billions and billions of dollars. I don't know how much money we've already spent on Ukraine. I don't know how much money we've already spent on Israel. And I know a lot of people say we need security at the border. I agree, sure, but do we need $14 billion worth? That's a lot of security. That's like Ed 209s from Terminator level security. What is costing $14 billion on the border? This is why I say that the U.S. economy is one of the most corrupt in the world. U.S. politics, I should say, are the most corrupt in the world. This spending is unjustified, and it's unjustifiable, and it's just continuing. Despite the fact that interest rates are at all-time highs, this is supposed to signal the government to behave more efficiently. But whether it's a Democrat or Republican, they will find a way to waste your money. So unfortunately, that's the country that we live in. Maybe someday we will change, but right now we're just heading for disaster with that. I think that's a bigger disaster than anything that happens in the economy. I don't like getting political. I try to, not that I don't have my own political thoughts, but I try to keep it very economical on this channel. But that staggering sum was just too high to ignore. I will see you guys back here tomorrow. I hope you have a productive day. I'll see you in the morning.